All right, Joel, let's get your take on exiting the Obama-Iran deal. First of all, what'd you think of that?
Well, this is a very complex story, and I know we don't have a lot of time, but I'm going to give you a synopsis of what happened. The real target has always been Iran, not Syria. The only reason Syria came into the play in 2013 is that Iran, or Israel, who had been tasked by globalists to attack Iran and start a war with Iran over the nuclear issue, said to the globalists, uh, basically, we're not going to attack Iran until you take care of Syria, because Syria is right next door to us. They have chemical weapons. They have over 1,000 Scud missiles. They could obliterate us in a retaliation from Iran. So until you take care of Syria, we're not going to deal with Iran. And so the U.S. began to set up a red line on Syria, saying if you use chemical weapons against anyone, that's going to be a red line that if you cross, we'll attack. And so the U.S. actually engineered through their U.S.-backed rebels to do some crude chemical weapons attacks in August 21st, 2013, in a suburb of Damascus called Ghouta. And there were a couple hundred people that died, and the international community immediately blamed the Assad regime for this weapons attack. Now, I asked the question at the time, why would Assad, a Western-trained medical doctor, a very rational person, ever hand to the West an excuse to attack him by violating a red line? Besides, chemical weapons have no use in a civilian environment. They're a broad area weapon for troops in the open. They would never be used where they would contaminate, civilian populations. And it was eventually revealed that, in fact, the rebels did get chemical weapons from Saudi Arabia and Turkey, and they specifically used them to blame it on the Assad regime.
Yeah, so we even had Mattis say that, beginning of this year in January, said, yeah, the stuff in 2013, 2017, it didn't happen the way we said. And then they went ahead and did it again in 2018. And I would even say, Joel, that because they wanted to have their troops pre-positioned in Syria so they could go into Iran, I think it goes back even to Libya, taking that down, and the arms operations that happened there that go around Benghazi and so forth, the creation, the arming of ISIS, and John McCain going in there. I mean, they created this push for regime change in Syria because it was a stepping stone to go after Iran, wasn't it?
Yes, and they needed to create a body of discontented fighters out of Egypt and of Libya. And the way that you do that is to create massive civil war and social unrest and blame it on someone. So you recruit fighters out of Tunisia, Libya, and Egypt to fight in Syria, and that's how the U.S. got their U.S.-backed rebels there. But what happened, interestingly, in September, I believe it was the 13th, is John Kerry got before a press conference in London, and a Sabah reporter said, hey, it's very obvious you're going to attack Syria over this chemical weapons thing. Is there anything that Syria can do to stop this attack? And Kerry was just kind of rambling during this press conference. He really wasn't giving a lot of prepared remarks. And so off the cuff, he says, well, yeah, and they're not going to do this, but Syria could give up every bit of their chemical weapons and allow international inspectors in, and then we wouldn't be able to attack. And it wasn't a serious offer, but Russia and Syria immediately said, we accept. And now the globalists were stuck with halting their attack into Syria, which was scheduled for 2013. Then they were going to dispose of Syria and then attack Iran. And it was set off base. I'll bet Kerry got a tongue lashing when he got off that stage that we wouldn't want to hear because of having ruined the globalist plans. But in any case, the U.S. did two things then afterwards. First of all, this was going to take a while now to work through this and get back into Syria after they gave up their chemical weapons and have an excuse to attack Syria. This was going to take years now. So we need an excuse to back off from our attack mode in Iran. We have 3 aircraft carriers off of Iran threatening to attack it. Israel's not going to do this. We got to have an excuse to back down. So the U.S. comes in and invites Iran to make a deal on the nuclear weapons. And what was interesting is that the U.S. did this. It wasn't Iran asking, even though they were under tremendous and harmful sanctions, including humanitarian aid, medicines for children, et cetera. The U.S. was just ruthless in doing this. But Iran was just shocked when the U.S. says, let's make a deal and we'll make it easy for you. You won't have to give up hardly any of your centrifuges or your enriched uranium, and you just agree to this and this. And Iran said, okay, let's do this. So in November, the U.S. announces this deal with Iran, and they say things that Iran had not agreed to. And Iran said, wait a minute, that isn't what we agreed to. And we've got the transcripts to prove it. And then the U.S. said, well, this is what we think it is, and we'll interpret this way and that. Well, Iran was so anxious to get over the sanctions, they agreed. In round two, the U.S. did the same thing. They got them a little further into the agreement. They falsified the results to the public, and Iran went along with it because they desperately want out of the sanctions. And in the third round, in February of 2014, the U.S. added provisions about a ban on ballistic missile testing and development that Iran would not agree to. But the U.S. said, this is what we want and we demand, or that's no deal. And so Iran finally agreed to that because of the language was fairly shaky. It said it had to be nuclear capable missiles that were banned. The U.S. was saying, this is the trap that we want in this agreement. In other words, we're going to make an Iran peace deal, but we'll put in a trap in the agreement so that we can, when we're ready and when Syria is out of the way, we can attack Iran based upon their violation of the Iran agreement. Well, over the years, the U.S. has tried to make the case that Iran violated the agreement in testing ballistic missiles. But Iran has pointed out, and the UN agreed, that the language...
I'm just going to give you a warning. We got about just under 2 minutes, so...
Okay. The UN agreed that they were not in violation, that these were not nuclear-capable missiles. And so the trap was not sprung. So basically what the U.S. has said, all right, the trap didn't work in this agreement, so we're going to abandon the agreement. What we hope to do is get Iran to start doing a nuclear program again, then we can get back to the attack mode. And that's why Israel is attacking Iran in Syria voraciously. Yesterday, they hit over 70 targets in Syria. And
yes, immediately after the exiting the deal, we had Israel attack some positions, and then they escalated and attacked, and then Israel escalated and counterattacked. And of course, on Monday, we got the 70th anniversary of the State of Israel. We've got the American Embassy moving to Jerusalem, and it's beginning Ramadan. I mean, do you expect to see more fireworks going on and escalation between Iran and Israel?
I do. Remember Israel saying this is self-defense. Iran has attacked us once. We've attacked it over 24 times, and yet they don't have a right to self-defense. It's only Israel that has a right to self-defense, and it's a disproportionate response. Hitting 70 targets versus Syria hitting one of their targets in the Golan Heights. So this is really a Trump deal. I expect full-blown war between Israel and Iran to break out within the month.
Yes, I agree with you. I'm afraid I do agree with you. And then, of course, that's going to have massive economic consequences for Americans, even if we aren't caught up in the violence initially. And that violence may spread. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, Joel Skousen. You can find him at joelskousen.com, also worldaffairsbrief.com, and you can get a copy of the current issue for free if you send an email to editor@worldaffairsbrief.com. That's it for our program.